Welcome back, guys, to the Butterfly Season podcast. I have Patty on today, and if I sound nasally like I was crying, I was because we were laughing so hard, but we get into a lot of stuff that maybe you weren't expecting to talk about today, like period blood, like moon cycles, like obstructing flows, and how having a better understanding of your body really empowers you to make decisions with your life. So welcome to the show. Patty,
hi.
I am so excited to have you on because what sparked me wanting you on this podcast is how you show up online. I feel like the world of social media, we have so much access to information, and sometimes I feel like that access to information goes from here's a bunch of access, okay, now that information's getting abused, and then nobody cares about the thing anymore because it's just oversaturated. How you talk about femininity, how you embrace your body, not a lot of people do that. And so I just want to honor you in that and tell you, I'm so excited to get into all of that today.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love showing up on social media and I love showing up in real life. So thank you for holding space for me in all those spaces.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's good. It's fun. It's fun to watch. I just want to get into it. No fluff. I feel like, and this is just from where I'm sitting, I feel like I don't understand what divine femininity is. And I feel like it's just used because it's it's not a trigger word. People aren't getting triggered by it. Well, maybe some people are, but I feel like it's a buzzword. Mm-hmm. You want to be divine feminine and more will come to you. So subscribe to my program. Mm-hmm. I literally have no idea what that means.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, it is confusing because one of the things that you'll hear a lot when it comes to the masculine and the feminine is that the masculine gives and the feminine receives. But are you not a giver? I'm a giver.
We all
take so much action. We're all of me and my friends are super incredibly independent, strong, resilient women. And to me, for a long time, I didn't think that was feminine. But then when I think of who creates life, who gives birth, who takes care of the children, I think the significance of power and success and strength is femininity. And it's not this hyper masculine. So sometimes those definitions and the energies, they blur because we have a very specific stereotype of what each one might look like.
Right.
But to me, femininity is strength. It's being strong and holding space for others like you're doing right now. It's being strong with holding heels. Your ankles are strong and being super cute, but it's also just being able to...
Holding heels. Your ankles are strong, girl. Yes, because sometimes it might be breaking and I'm oh, get it together.
Right? Tap into your divine feminine, that's strength.
Yeah.
And so bringing it back to this, the feminine receives, that's something that I would love for all of us to tap into because, again, we are such givers. So yeah, a lot of women are genuinely living in this masculine energy, especially single women who got to provide for themselves.
Which is what though? What does that look like practically?
It means surrendering, right? It means that you're not chasing. It means that when someone gives you a compliment, you receive it.
As opposed to
constantly uplifting other people and saying, no, you're great and you look beautiful, or let me do this for you. It means receiving also flowers from yourself, receiving grace from yourself. It means surrendering. It means that just because you can work out on your period and you think that you feel fine, it means that you sleep in a little bit longer and that you have soup and that you drink red things and that you don't pick up your phone. It means that you're receiving peace instead of seeking for it.
Let's talk about that period stuff because I feel like it was a combination. I think you had mentioned something on social media about moon cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was it was a full moon, I think, when you just said that. And I was on my cycle and I was what's a moon cycle? So I went to Google. I'm a moon cycle. And it's when your cycle is in line with the full moon. And it was saying how that's a special thing to have. And I was oh, the Enneagram 3 in me is oh, of course I have that one. That one. Yes. Anyways, so talk to me about that. Moon cycle, period stuff. I feel that's also very taboo.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about it. It's terms that I feel people would use as gross, disgusting, blah, blah.
Oh, there's nothing more powerful than the fact that we all bleed once a month and continue about our day like nothing is happening. We're literally not draining blood from our bodies where other people are missing blood. I think it's incredibly empowering, the fact that our bodies create life, or they prepare to create life. And then when that doesn't happen, it destructs itself. And just within the female body, we have chaos and we have nature and rebirth every single month. I think that's super incredible. And so when you were like, the Enneagram me is like so excited to be connected to the moon. Yeah, because the moon is so incredibly powerful. Just like we admire the sun for everything that the sun grows, the moon is our emotional side. And to connect with something outside of you, which is a higher power, right? You're powerful. When you connect with something outside of you, you feel a bigger sense of yourself. You feel more connected and less living in this egotistical sense, because I'm connected to nature and the moon. And so bringing it back to the moon cycle, when you do have your period on a full moon, we call that like a wild woman. This is the woman who is like social, she is outgoing, she is more of like the seductress of the archetypes. When you are a new moon bleeder, then
Which
you're more
is
like the nurturing sense.
I don't think I know what a new moon is.
So a new moon, so you know, a new moon is when you can't even see the moon, right? The moon doesn't
It's like kind of like
full.
the shadowy time where it's like you could see the shape, but it's not like it's
no,
not the white
you can't
part.
even see her at all.
There's a time in the world where the moon is not around.
You will break your neck looking for the moon in the sky. No, she's not there. And this is the thing that I love.
Wait,
because
I feel like this feels like I'm a little bit embarrassed. There's a time in the world where the moon is not around.
Yes.
Not anything, not a sliver.
Not a sliver. But then the next day, there is that little sliver.
Okay.
Where she wasn't there. Now
So
it's like
I
that little
get it's
hangnail.
brand new moon, because she was like, I'm in cocoon season.
Because she's
butterfly
taking a
season
break.
started.
She's like, well, let me reevaluate on what I just did the last time I was full and ovulating and having the time of my life. And literally let me reevaluate what the last month or last 28 days or last moon cycle has looked like for me, so that now when the full moon comes, I can release. So new moon, new intentions. And something I've heard when it comes to like new moon is you can look at it as like the sky is like a chalkboard. There's nothing there. And this is your moment to set new intentions. Whereas now when the full moon comes out and that bright cosmic spotlight is on you, now it's shining the light in all of the shadows that you thought was hiding in the new moon because the light wasn't there. So now full moon is about looking at what you did in the last couple of days, which is 28-day cycle.
Wow.
And that's how the menstrual cycle is, right? Like a lot of male hormones, right? They run a 24-hour cycle like the sun. The sun is super consistent. It's going to rain, it's going to pour, and we think that the sun may not be there. Go past the clouds. The sun is right there. The moon runs on a 28-day cycle like we do. So some of us are in alignment. I'm a couple days off with this full moon. I was a little sad. That's what I talked about on social media. When I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I'm not, when I'm confused, you're going to hear about it.
So
I love being human.
Alignment with the full moon means not that day one of bleeding is on the full moon, or you're bleeding while on the full moon. Help me understand.
Yeah, it can vary, right? So it can be that you're bleeding on the full moon. The full moon is an energy of release or cosmic spotlight, right? You're full, and then when the cup is full, it's going to overflow, right? So the moon is full, and then it slowly starts to retrieve, and so that's how we start to see less and less and less and less of the moon until it's completely gone.
Okay.
Right? And so some people are bleeding on the full moon, some people are ovulating on the full moon, but it's such a beautiful time to like charge your crystals, because there's just more energy in the sky and more energy faced towards us specifically.
So this is like the 3 in me is like whatever trophy, I just want it, no reason.
Yeah.
So when you're like, oh, moon cycle, I'm like, oh yeah, but like, why is that a desirable thing? Why were you sad?
I was sad because of the intention. I feel like you can magnify your intention with the energy of the moon that is magnified in and of itself. So the tracking of the moon itself, it just gives you an opportunity to check in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, and this is me sometimes too, when I'm not self-aware, I don't know what moon cycle, what phase it is, what zodiac it's in. I'm not really present.
Yeah.
But I know that every 28 days I can check on the moon, and it gives me some sort of guidance, once again, outside of me, because I'm living so much in my ego brain or so much in stress that I'm not looking to the stars, looking to nature, or looking to any sort of source for support. And so it just feels really nice to know that that something is flowing at a correct time when you're feeling off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. It's feeling aligned with nature.
Alignment. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for someone who's listening and who's like, I definitely don't bleed anywhere near the full moon.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. That's going to fluctuate. Some of us, if you track your cycle, like I do on an app, I'm crushing it. Sometimes it's 28 days. It's consistent. I know when to expect it. I know when I'm ovulating. I know when I'm in my follicular. I know everything. And then maybe I'm not eating as well. Maybe I'm not sleeping as well. And now all those things are going to disrupt my nervous system, which is going to disrupt my hormones, stress, anxiety, all those things. They disrupt your hormones. So yeah, you're going to be off. And there's no way that you can make yourself be on the time of the moon. But as you start to regulate, you'll notice, like I'm getting closer to the full moon again.
Okay.
Anything could throw you off. Like stress is the number one, right, initiator of most diseases or imbalances.
I'm currently going through some hormone irregulation. And I don't know. I think it's vitamin D, which means I'm not getting enough sun, which is also just insane to me how not getting enough sun can dysregulate my hormones this bad.
Yeah. And it goes to show how important the sun is. A lot of us are vitamin D deficient without us knowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to me about, I feel like you're very educated on period stuff. And like, I was never, but then honestly, the moon cycle thing and it was months ago when you posted it, it brought me down a whole rabbit hole. Cause I think around this time you were talking about cycle, like you just operate your life based off of the time of your cycle.
I will say I'm not a super scientific person. There are so many people I love and I follow around cycle syncing, but I do my best to, when I'm on my period, to rest. I know that when I'm more energized, like right now I'm getting my energy back up because I had my period last week. So now I'm like in my follicular phase and my body's getting ready for some sort of excitement. And again, biologically it's getting ready for life. And so it's gathering energy, and my energy and literally my hormones are coming back up. The testosterone, the estrogen, the progesterone, everything is coming back up. And so I follow it in that sense, but not necessarily when it comes to eating, because I give myself so much grace. Like one thing I always say is I'm consistently inconsistent, right? Like I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I go through kind of different habits and moods and trends. But when it comes to my period, the one thing I do for sure, and my best friend knows, is I just stay away. I stay away from people. Even if I'm in a good mood, I'm going to honor the fact that I don't have to present and perform and do this when I'm on my period. Because it's the 5 days, thankfully I only bleed 5 days, but it's the 5 days that I can say no and I can isolate for good reason. Yeah. And I have my own little tent.
So really, I want to affirm you in sharing that, because it had me like research, like I just want Enneagram 3, right? I just want to be the best at everything. So the moment I know about like moon cycle, then cycle syncing, I'm like, how can I sync all the cycles of everything? And so I realized that I would be so after reading through it, I realized that I was so tired right before my period, or like right when I was on it. So the point where I would like middle of the day cancel a meeting because I like needed to sleep. It was just like, whoa, so tired. And so then I was like, okay, like I'm just going to track it in my calendar and I'm just going to have nothing that week and just see like how I feel. The bounce back afterwards was like actually insane.
Yeah.
And I felt like my period symptoms were like not as bad.
Yes, because you're honoring your body. And when we think about like menstruation and hormones, we think it's only what's happening in our uterus, but it's your brain chemistry. Our hormones rise and then they plummet. So a lot of women experience depression, right? It's super common. That's one of the most common symptoms when it comes to menstrual cycles. And it makes sense because it's not just about your body bleeding and as if our brains aren't connecting to sending out these signals all the time to our body. It's your brain chemistry is constantly off once a month. And so if you don't honor your body and prepare for yourself, either mentally to say, and for me, this took a long time to not be depressed when I'm on my period, to say, oh, okay, my period is coming and I'm feeling a little lethargic, and not because I need to rest, but because I'm feeling like a bitch, or I'm feeling lazy, or I'm feeling super unmotivated. What do I need to do to keep myself regulated so I can survive this next cycle? It's a lot for our brains and our bodies and our stress levels every single month for however many years that we get to experience this blessing that we get as a period. But I love that you have a better relationship with your period, because that's one of the things I talk about a lot on social media is everyone knows I'm bleeding because I'm always going to talk about it once a month. If you see me wear red, it's because I'm on my period. And you may not know, but I'm celebrating my period.
Talk to me about your period rituals.
I collect my blood in my DEVO cup.
Okay, hold on. This is really bad, but I tried. I don't know how you put that up there. Like, honestly, I'm like, if it goes further, I don't know if I can get it out. One, but two, it hurts kind of.
Okay. Well, and here's my question.
I even went to TikTok to see about how other people were applying it, and nobody's like showing anyone how to do the application.
Maybe I should make a TikTok. But I want you to be mindful of the distinction between pain and uncomfortability, right? Because pain is stop. Don't push yourself. Don't do that.
Actually, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I probably will try again.
Yeah.
But I just felt like, and I only had like 2 minutes. I'm like, this will be quick. And I'm like, oh, I think this is going to be longer.
It's a very intimate experience because there's a lot more involvement when you're with your hands than with like a tampon or obviously a pad. There's like no contact at all.
And then you just have to keep pushing it up and pushing it up and pushing it up and pushing it. I'm like,
no, you don't have to go that far.
I mean, I felt like I was going pretty far.
Okay, how far are you? It's not like this is like 2 inches big.
No, but it just felt like it was just slipping back out.
You may have to attach a string at the end just in case to like retrieve it.
I honestly was scared that I wasn't going to be able to get it back. So I was like, you know what? Fuck this.
Hopefully you bought the right size because there are actually, there's different sizes. There's sizes for people who have given birth and then people who have not.
Imagine I have this like extra large. I'm like, get up there.
You got a whole funnel up there.
Okay. So back to your rituals.
So back to the Diva cup or menstrual cup, right? Because there's so many different brands. But menstrual cup, I will collect it. I paint, it's been a while, but I do paint. But I love mixing my blood in water because it just disperses and it becomes like this flood. It's so thick and beautiful. So I mix it with water and I give that to my plants. There's so much minerals and like life and energy in our water, in our period blood. So I give it to my plants.
I have 3 plants in the ICU right now.
Girl, revive them with the life of your period magic. That is magic in your body.
My husband would be like, who the fuck are you?
He's like, stop talking to these people. You gotta stop this podcast.
Every day he's like, you're like a breath away. Like I turn around and you're a whole new hippie. Like what is happening?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Repurposing, right? I mean, I've done this once. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
You should sell plant care. It's just filled with your blood. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Ingredients: human blood and a little bit of magic in there. Okay.
No one died in the making of this product.
No. Think about how many people need blood transfusions, right? We have this free blood.
Yeah.
Might as well use it. But also, maybe you didn't intentionally nurture this blood in your body, but you can put that intention towards it. And then for a plant that is in ICU, to say, I'm giving you life from my life and giving you my blood and allowing it to like live on in something else. Because plants need minerals. We are minerals, right? We have minerals as well. So that, and then I wear a little like red lingerie slip for myself, for my lonely ass self.
We're calling in somebody.
So it's so awesome. And I've shown this on Instagram where I'm wearing a little red slip and then I'll lift it and it's like a grandma panty.
Oh, I was like, I thought you were like a lot of blood. I'm like, okay, this is where I draw the line on the rituals.
That's a little canceled there. But I love wearing like, I love to free bleed. Let me talk about that.
Yes.
I'm super passionate about that.
So this is not with the cup.
No. So free bleed, because cups and tampons, they're obstructing flow.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to live a life in flow. That's part of divine femininity, right? It's like living a life in flow. So even though it's a Diva cup and it's silicone made and it's not as toxic as tampon ingredients and pad ingredients, it's still obstructing a flow. It's still stopping something, right? So these particular underwears, and there's so many different brands, the brands that I love is Period Company. They have like this built-in quote unquote pad, but it's made of fabric. So it's not made of like weird gel and toxic and chemicals. And all you do is bleed and it collects it. It doesn't smell.
Drips out.
It doesn't. And I sleep in these. I work out in these. I have like the grandma, the bikini, the thong. I have all the variations,
thong?
all of them. I will wear them to the point where I rarely now even use my Diva cup. I wear them to work. I wear them to work out. I wear them to sleep, and it's the best feeling.
Do you have
it
a
feels
heavy
like
period?
a regular day. I have a medium period. I won't say I have a heavy. I haven't ever. But and the cool thing about the Diva cup or menstrual cup is when you actually take the cup out and you're like, this is all I had. in like 8 hours.
That's what I was like. When I looked at that cup, I said, my cup runneth over, because I don't think this is enough to hold everything. So that's why when you tell me about these chonies, I'm like,
Some people, so obviously there's different types of bleeds. And I will say, the healthier I get when it comes to nutrition and spirituality and mindset, my period is shorter and it's lighter.
I heard that.
Yes, it's been a big shift. It's been a big, big, big shift.
Wow. Let's go back to obstruction of flow. So I subscribe to a lot of spirituality stuff, and I feel like now at this point where I am in my journey, I don't need the connection, like the tangible connection, to help me understand why what's what. So I feel like when you say obstruction of flow, you don't want to do that because you want to be in flow, right? Divine feminine is being in flow. We can talk here, I get it. But I feel like there's probably someone that's listening that's like, what the fuck does obstruction have to do with not being in flow? I could still be in flow with the tampon obstructing my flow. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that?
I mean, if you're a super logical person, I'm not. I don't know if you realize this, y'all, but I'm not. I'm a feeling intuitive person. I'm not a statistics. But if you need to get logical, your period is flowing down. Gravity is pulling it down towards the earth. And then it's a funnel, it's a tube, right? It's a channel, a portal, whatever you want to call your beautiful vagina. And then you have this cup that is obstructing the flow like a dam, and it's collecting it, right? And so ideally the blood isn't flowing out because it's well inserted and it's suctioning up the space. But yeah, it's obstructing the flow. So that's what's happening physically. Okay? If you're driving and there is traffic and you're in flow and it's a beautiful day and you had your coffee, you had time to meditate, and now there's a traffic jam, that has obstructed your flow. And yes, you have the spiritual and intellectual option to say, this is going to stop me or I'm going to continue in flow. But what's physically, logically happening is that there's an obstruction. Okay. That makes sense? Yes. Right? So how do we translate that like very logical stuff to metaphysical? Is something isn't flowing. Energy isn't flowing because it's being collected and it's being obstructed. Yeah. Whereas like, of course, when you have the period panties, there is a flow. It's not flowing down your legs. I don't think we want that. It is collecting, but it's not obstructing it.
I see.
You know?
Which is so interesting because I believe like dams, it collects the water to like create energy. So it's like I don't know. Let's not even get there because I don't really fully know. But I feel like that is reminds me of, you are collecting a bunch of energy, but what are you doing with it, right? We're not allowing it to like.
Yeah, exactly. And same thing with that DEVO cup. So you're collecting it, and of course you can pour it out. And honestly, if you do nothing, if you don't water your plants, if you don't put it on your face, which is what some people do, but taking a moment to honor it and just like look at the richness of the color, like also just even to observe your blood, right? There's certain colors. If it's too dark, that's not really great. If it's too pink, that's not really great. If there's blood clots, your body is constantly communicating to you. And so if all you do is collect it to dump it out, even just dumping it into the toilet or the water, again, there's this dispersion of that red color that looks so artistic. Yeah. And not everyone gets to experience that moment, to actually see your blood instead of just like pulling out a tampon and throwing it out and rushing to work and, you know.
That's so interesting. The body does talk to us. And I feel like nobody talks about this like in real life about how you see things. And my husband and I are on this fertility journey, and the like A+ student I'm trying to be, I'm like reading all the stuff. Here's how to tell if you're this, like stick your fingers up and feel like if you could feel. I'm like, what? You mean to tell me I could fill my fallopian tube or whatever, I don't know, something or other, to see if it's down enough so that you could, easier to impregnate, and then like your cervical mucus is, I'm like, I have not, clearly my body's talking and I'm not listening. I couldn't tell you what the difference is at any time.
Well, that's a deep investigation.
But here's the thing. It's still communicating with you, even with respect to the period, right? So it's like, if I know certain types of blood shouldn't be, like we know the same thing with poop. Everyone's like, oh, your poop should look like this. Your poop shouldn't look like this. But like, what's the difference with blood, right? Your blood should look like, or it shouldn't look like. And if you're not exploring that, this is a random question. Have you looked at your vagina?
Oh, yeah.
So I was in a college class, and for homework, the teacher was like, everyone needs to go home and go look at their vagina.
What class is this?
This was I was like a sex ed class, I think.
Good.
And at that point I'm like, no, why would I do that? But it's like, if you don't understand, you don't know what you're looking for, but the first time you're looking at it, you're like, I don't know if it should be like this or not.
Yeah.
But that feels like divinely feminine. I don't know.
Yeah. And we don't know because we don't look at our vaginas, and we also don't look at our friends' vaginas. It's different when you flash your boobs, right? Like, we know our friends' areolas and all the other stuff. I'm like, when it comes to you don't know what's quote unquote normal.
No.
The lips, the size of this. Some are hooded, some are not. Like, there's so much to it. So just knowing your own body. And it's a really interesting looking creature in a way, right?
And the plethora of
there's so many like layers to it.
Yes.
And then when you look at a flower, or when you look at art that's inspired by your vagina, you're like, oh yeah, that does look like, it does resemble it. And so seeing it as art is also so beautiful, no matter how much is on it or how much is not, whether it's bare, whether whatever. It is so beautiful to know your body. And honestly, I didn't know it was I failed sex ed. I think that's why I know so much now, because I failed sex ed and I was like, damn, I don't know anything about anything. Like, I was 13 when I found out that we have a different hole for urine for pee. I didn't know that. I thought it was like all one hole. And here I am failing everything in class because it was so sterile. And I had to repeat it again. I had to tell my mom, like, I gotta go back to school to take a test on sex because I'm failing.
Yeah.
Which isn't even sex. It's
physiological
stuff.
Know? Sex ed is kind of funny. This is a random story. But our moms hired this sex ed lady to come and like teach us stuff in high school, because we didn't have it in high school. And honestly, for good reason, because we were doing things that we shouldn't have done. And I'll just leave that at that. And so they had us put condoms on bananas. And so then my friend, I will never forget this, but this is why you have sex ed, because my friend was like, how is this supposed to go over the balls too? It doesn't. Could you imagine if she never took the class? She'd be like, hold on, let me put it over. I'm crying.
Oh my God. We were so dumb. They do not teach us.
This is why you shouldn't be fucking in high school.
Oh my God.
When I get embarrassed, my ears get hot. Are they red?
Yes.
Anyways.
What a great, good for her for asking. Because she would have tried it on somebody. Then they would have just like, go home. Go home.
You lost your chance with me.
We've broken 5. It doesn't work that way. They don't stretch like that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
Anyways.
We don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
I really did not.
And we still don't. I mean,
No.
I still am learning so much, which is why I wanted to have you on this podcast, which is why I wanted to get into all of the period stuff, because I feel like no one talks about it. No one talks about it at all. And I had such a negative like relation with like period stuff. Like, ew, it's gross.
Yeah.
Shh, don't tell anyone. Ooh, my God. And I'm like, that I also don't necessarily feel aligned with everybody I'm bleeding, right? And that's just me. But I do feel like I don't like thinking of myself or anything like in a negative way. I'm just more mindful of that now. And there's subtle things that I feel like the way society has conditioned us to feel around period feels negative.
Yeah, I mean, we've been brought up to think that it's shameful, right? It's like in movies, and I'm sure you've probably experienced this in high school too. It's like when you don't have a tampon, and it's like you're buying drugs from someone, right, the way that you're like secretly handing over the tampons to nobody, and then slipping in your pocket. And God forbid someone knows that you're gonna go to the bathroom to change your tampon or your pad or whatever it is. So to even ask for it is such a shame. And for anyone who like you, who like maybe even for me as well, like didn't grow up knowing a lot about your period, I want everyone to know that I'm an enthusiast. I'm not an expert. And that's for anything. Enthusiast over expert. So you always have time to get curious and to start collecting little bits of information and then applying it slowly, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And then you forget about it. You might remember once a month when your period comes, and then you completely forget. So just know that you are so empowered and can be empowered to gather information for yourself and slowly take your time with it, because hopefully we have periods for a really long time.
Thank you for saying that, because my question was, what would you tell somebody who's like, where do I start? Like, I'm maybe not the girl that's going to like put the blood on my face, but like, maybe I want to stop the obstruction of justice. Just kidding, of the flow or justice, whatever. But thank you so much for today. This was so fun. I cried on podcasts, but I haven't like cried from laughing on a podcast. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. And I do want to say, if you want to start hopefully seeing a change in your relationship with your period, I would start by looking at the products that you're using for your vagina. Things like smells and scents and soaps, leave them alone. The vagina is a self-cleansing, beautiful system. We don't need all that stuff. And just drink more water and eat cleaner. It'll reflect a lot in your vagina's health. But then also look at the ingredients in your tampons and in your pads, because most of them are using bleached cotton, which is super terrible, as we can imagine having bleach in any part of our skin. And if you're curious, maybe transition from, tampons to work to cleaner tampons. If you feel fine obstructing your flow, which is nothing wrong with it, look at period cups, menstrual cups, and then please look into period panties, period company. There's a bunch of different brands. And maybe try that, because I think that's the most beautiful way to just, again, allow your blood to flow and to notice those little nuances of, oh, wow, this is how I feel when I'm not wearing a tampon. And I'm less moody, or I'm less irritated down there or up here, whatever it is. So those little slight changes. But please, everyone, first thing is look at the ingredients that your products are made from. That's number one. Yeah.
That's so perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aisha.
You're amazing and so funny.
Thank you.
My lashes are still wet from tears.